Hey there, welcome back to Getting Curious with Sherry. Thank you so much for joining us once again. I am really excited to be sharing with you this video this week, as it is something that is deeply personal to me, and I had so much fun putting it together, and I really hope that it touches your heart as you watch this video. And so, did you know on December 14, 1990, the United Nations General Assembly declared October 1st to be the International Day of Older Persons? And so, on this day, every year, we celebrate the incredible contributions and impact and wisdom that elders in our life generously share with all of us and everybody in our communities. It is also a day where we raise awareness of the very pressing social and health issues that our older adults continue to face in their everyday life all across the world. And so today, in honor of International Day for Older Persons tomorrow, I am joined by four of my incredible co-fellows in the HPHR Journal to share with all of you one elder in our life that have made an incredible impact on who we are, our values, how we see the world, and most importantly, how they have impacted us in becoming the public health leaders that we aspire to be. And so first of all, we are going to hear from the incredible Dr. Quinn Gentry, and then we'll hear from Gabriel Oke, followed by Dr. Isioma Okolo and Claire Bunn. And then I'll come back at the very end to share with you all of you a bit more of who these lovely folks are in the photo behind me. So stay tuned until the very end, and I'll talk to you then.
As October 1st is International Day of Older Persons, I am inspired by the African proverb, "It takes a village to raise a child." And what this means to me is that an entire community of people must provide for and create a safe and healthy environment for all children to reach their fullest potential. As a product of inner city Atlanta, I am here today because the older persons that we call elders in my community embodied the essence of what it means to raise a young, Black, gifted girl child as a member of a resourceful and caring village. In 1968, I entered the world as the daughter of a teen mom who had the full support of her elders. And today I am Dr. Quinn Motivates because of the elders who fully understood their assignment in building strong, resilient family members. If I were to honor one of the elders of the many from my church, my school, my family, my community program environments, it would have to be my maternal grandmother, actually, Irene Ferguson. Because my grandmother, Irene Ferguson, she only had a fourth grade education, and she did not have the paperwork in hand to send me to kindergarten. She decided with the fourth grade education that she was going to teach me. So imagine everyone's surprised when I got to first grade and was reading on an eighth grade level. So grandmother had the presence of mind to ensure that even though she didn't have the proper paperwork to send me to this institution called school, she was going to homeschool me. So she was one of the original homeschoolers, right? Also, grandma had the presence of mind to make sure that I was integrated in church for moral training. She made sure that I had relationships with all of my extended family members, my father's family members, my two aunts on my father's side. You know, they are nurses, and one is a nurse and one is a teacher. And I know that their spirit also resides in me. So I am grateful for that. All of my maternal aunts have footprints in my life as well. But grandmother was the catalyst for making sure that I had those relationships, that I was emotionally well and whole in that sense. My school environment, she allowed me to explore a range of interests. Now, this is a woman who was living off of a Social Security check, but she made sure that I was in dance classes, that I had a clarinet in fourth grade and played it all the way through high school, actually, my senior year. She made sure that I was involved in community theater. She insisted that I write my own Easter speeches. Can you imagine that? A grandmother who had the presence of mind to recognize that I was a gifted writer at a very early age. And, you know, today I have authored some 50 plus books and articles and publications of different diverse productions. But I have to say that it was that foundation of grandmother saying, no, you can write some original thoughts. I want you to write your own Easter speech, not get one out of the book. She allowed me to turn her living room into my own personal school after school, where I taught my dolls and my teddy bears everything that I had learned from school that day. So, you know, she taught me how to sew, and in teaching me how to sew, she actually taught me the essence of helping vulnerable people everywhere. I did not know at that age that grandmother was collecting all these old clothes and having me to cut all of these shirts and pants and all of this stuff, rip it apart and cut it into squares so that she could make quilts. And then when winter would set in, I would see grandmother take these quilts to church and distribute them to people who needed a quilt for the winter because they didn't have the proper heating in their homes. So thank you, Grandmother Irene, for your wisdom, your wit, and the way you fully embraced womanhood in showing up for me and showing up for, I'm about to tear up, in showing up for me and pouring into my soul the kind of wisdom and wit that can't be taught or bought. It has to be experienced by sitting at the foot of an elder and inhaling everything that they breathe, putting it in your soul, having the courage to push it back out as something authentic that you know cannot be bought or taught. So thank you, Grandma Irene, for being that elder that I honor today, October 1st, International Day of Older Persons.
Hello everyone, thank you for watching this video, and I'm excited to record this video to commemorate the International Day of Older Persons. Thank you, Sherry, for the opportunity. So I'm celebrating Daniel Lapint on this day. I'm celebrating Rabbi Daniel Lapint for his content. He shares awesome content every week on YouTube and on his website and on his other social media channels. I'm always happy to check in every time to watch your videos, to watch your podcast, Daniel Lapint. I'm always happy to listen to you, to hear your words of wisdom. You draw wisdom on how to build strong connections and friendships, on how to improve on our finances, on how to build our families, and how to even increase our faith. Thank you, Daniela Payne, for this awesome content to share every time. I also appreciate every older person out there that is actually building the lives of the younger generation that are coming behind you. Thank you very much for the effort you put in to build the coming generation. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you on this day. And thank you very much. And God bless you very much. Thank you.
So who is an elder who has positively impacted my life? That's a very easy question. So that would be my father, or fondly as we call him, Alanza. So I'm from Nigeria and I grew up in Lagos, but originally from the south of Nigeria, a place called Umuagu, which is in Asaba in Delta State. And the reason I picked my father, you know, parents teach us so many things. So our parents are our first points of reference. They are our first points of authority. They are also often the first people to disappoint us when we realize how human they are. And one thing my father has taught me is the importance of stories. My father was always a storyteller, always telling stories, always telling jokes, always teaching us lessons by telling us stories. And so very important stories about where we are from, stories of our culture that you don't find written down, and stories of resilience and why persistence matters and why being hopeful is so important in this day and age. I think those are key things my father has taught me. My father also told me the importance of not taking yourself too seriously and not taking situations too seriously. He would often say, his common phrase would be, just take it philosophically. He used to say that to us when we were like 5. I'm like, what does that mean? And today now, many years later, I appreciate that he is just trying to say to us, take a step back and have a look at the wider picture. And the thing about elders is, they hold the stories that are so important to parts of our identity, parts of our culture, and stories that don't make it into history books, particularly if you're from a culture that doesn't write things down, where spoken word and word of mouth is very important, where maybe the language that's written down in is not considered accessible. And often when it comes to the history of these cultures, it's described as there's gaps in the history, there's lack of history, but it's not that there's gaps or that there's any lack of history of that culture. The gap and the lack is actually in the historian, the observer. And the gaze is wrong. So this is why I feel as elders and as my father, the gift and the ability to tell stories of where you come from is so important. And that's what he's given me. And it's with that sort of pride and sense of identity, that's what keeps me grounded in this day and age.
October 1st is the International Day of the Older Person, and I'm so excited to take this opportunity to honor one of the important elders in my life, my mama. My mama is my grandmother on my mother's side, but affectionately known as mama. Growing up, during the summers, I would go to wetlands camp every summer while visiting my mama. And I would go to wetlands camp during the day to learn more about Cajun culture and heritage and the coastal wetlands. And then my mama would pick me up and I would go back to her house. My brother and I would have snowballs and brownies, and my mama would just listen to us wholeheartedly and listen to us recount like the banalities of our day, but just encourage us in everything we were doing. And I'm so grateful for that like constant belief and faith that she's always had in me. And I think that is so essential for everybody to feel. But she would share her own stories of Cajun culture and heritage and her love of her community. And I think she's really taught me what it looks like to be part of a community and to share those stories and to share in that culture, and then what it looks like to care for your community. We have a really big family, and Mama has always been sort of the organizer and the chef, and just been there for everyone. And so I think she's taught me a lot about what it looks like to support and show up for the people you love and how to do that. And so today, I don't go to summer camp anymore, but I still call my mama often. And as a college student, our phone calls are really grounding for me. She has this wealth of wisdom from a life really well lived. And I'll often tell her about my struggles or troubles that feel really big in the moment. And she just has this really calm, kind reassurance that it's all going to be okay. And a lot of really wonderful lived experience to draw on. And I always feel more grounded and comfortable after our phone calls. And she's just an elder that I'm really grateful for to have in my life. I want to honor her along with the rest of our elders today.
So some of you might be wondering, who are these people in my photos? They are my maternal grandparents, so grandparents on my mother's side, or in Mandarin Chinese, especially in the northern parts of China where I am from, we actually call them Lao Lao and Lao Ye. Lao Lao is the grandma and Lao Ye is the grandpa. So my Lao Lao and Lao Ye were both healthcare professionals all their life. My Lao Lao started out as a hospital nurse, and then she went on to specialize as a pediatric nurse. Somewhere in the middle of her career, she took on more of a public health and outreach nursing role, supporting women and their newborns, visiting folks in their homes, truly meeting people where they're at. And by the time that I was born and had my first memories of her, she was already working as a public health nurse in the childhood immunization clinic, where myself and all the kids in my class would go for our childhood immunization. So it was really lovely to be able to see my grandma at work. And my grandfather, my Lao Ye, is a surgeon. So he started out his training as a general surgeon and was able to have an opportunity to further his training as a neurosurgeon. This was in response to a critical gaps in service in our local hospital. So where I am from, our city is about a mid-sized city, but at that time, our area, we only had one hospital. And while there was an emergency room, there was nobody able to perform neurosurgery or brain surgery. So my grandpa really saw that critical gap in care and took the initiative to get trained, to receive additional training to become a neurosurgeon. And he just has been a neurosurgeon ever since. You know, despite all of the accomplishment they've had in their lives and in their professional roles, we really never talked about it until I was much older and started working in the public health and social work field myself. And so growing up, I really didn't see them as the nurse and surgeon that they are, but really it's just my Lao Lao and Lao Ye. And this was especially true because I actually didn't spend a lot of time with them. My family and I left China when I was 7 years old. So much of my memories of Lao Lao and Lao Ye is just the short 2 weeks window where I would visit home for winter break and summer breaks. And just thinking back, my most fondest memory of them always revolved around food. My grandparents' love language, like so many Chinese elders out there, are through acts of service and cooking and making and sharing food. And our relationship also has always revolved around food. One of my all-time favorite food to eat, and this is something that I can honestly eat every single day and not get sick of, is the tomato egg soup. The tomato egg noodle, especially one that my grandfather makes, because Lao Ye would always put extra shrimp in my tomato egg noodle. And he always makes sure that the noodle to soup ratio is just right. So when you're almost done with the bowl, your noodles would essentially look like glue because I love it when there's more noodles than soup. And he remembers it and he makes sure that my tomato egg noodle is done right every time I visit, whether it's when I was a child or right now as an adult. You know, my Lao Lao and Lao Ye also taught me the power of genuine connection and unconditional care and support for others. One of my fondest memories of growing up in China, this is before that my family had gone to Canada, is that every year during Chinese New Year, we would get a lot of visitors to come and share their well wishes to my grandparents. And many of these visitors are past patients and their families, you know, coming in and expressing their respect and showing gratitude. I think this really is truly a representation of how much care and love and respect my grandparents put into their professional role. For people to feel like that they were truly being cared for as people first and not of, you know, the conditions that they were experiencing at that time. My Lao Lao's magical power is that she is able to remember everyone's everything. One of my favorite things to do with her is to go to our local market. It's an open market. It's like a farmer's market. And she would be the star of the market. She would check in with everybody with such genuine concern. And she would remember conversations that they've had a couple days ago. She would remember stories that folks were sharing with her and ask them how people are doing, ask them how that situation has evolved. My Lao has that ability to make people feel like that they truly belong, that they are important, and that they're being heard and understood and accepted for exactly who they are. These are such important skills to have just as public health professionals too, especially when we are enacting change or working with communities that are not our own or historically underserved and marginalized. Listening with intention, acting with humility, and reflecting with gratitude are values and skills that I have been so lucky to learn from my grandparents that I put into action in my work, hopefully every single day. Like so many people that are separated right now due to the pandemic, I try to video call my Lao and Lao whenever I can. But sometimes I know that Lao can't hear me well, or he can't see me well. But he still tries, and I still call with the help of my Lao on the other end, repeating what I said in greater volume. Hopefully that connection is still very meaningful for him and for Lao as well. And when advocating for change becomes exhausting or I feel really hopeless in what I'm doing, I just cook myself a bowl of tomato egg noodles and remember the resilience, kindness, love, and wisdom of my Lao and Lao. I'm really glad that we were able to share with all of you who we are as professionals, but also who we are as people. And so thank you so much for celebrating International Day for Older Persons with all of us. Until next time, I hope you stay well, stay safe, and stay curious. I'll talk to you soon.